Hello, welcome to this your channel about the Eurofan, that's me. San Marino is still facing difficulties to have a spot among the finalists, despite the fact that it is still nowadays the only small European country that gives its bid for the contest. It seemed that luck was about to change with the energetic proposal presented by the guys from Megara during last year's contest, but unfortunately they did not convince the audience, placing 14th in their semi-final, raising uncertainty on if they will find the key to conquer Europe again. For now, let's take a look at the next artist that had the chance of waving the San Marinese colors on the main stage of Basel. Here we go. For today's episode, I'm going to review the San Marinese entry for Eurovision 2025, which has been represented by the DJ Gabry Ponte with the song Tutta L'Italia, which in English translates as All of Italy. In fact, it's literally true that the Mediterranean country surrounds the microstate, but aside from that, let's find out how is that one of the most world-renowned DJs steps on the Euro's most important musical stage. Without further delay, let's move on with the review. We start by reviewing his biography and career before leaving his Eurovision adventure in the Alpine country. Gabry Ponte, mostly well known as Gabry Ponte, is an Italian musician, DJ and producer in the genres of Italo dance, electronic music and electro house, coming from the city of Turin, located in northern Italy. He gets his first test as a DJ in his home at the age of 17, just for self-entertainment and passion for music, which will become later in his weekend hobby by DJing in a frequent basis in class of his neighborhood while he was studying the degree of physics in college. Until he signs a deal in 1993 with a musical production company, eventually abandoning his degree to pursue a career as a DJ. In that musical production company, he gets to know the singer and producer Gianfranco Randone and keyboardist and producer Mauri Lovina, and the three of them will decide to start a musical project by founding the Eurodance group Eiffel 65 in 1997. The trio is especially known for the greatest hits Blue, Da Baby and Move Your Body, which will take part of the debut studio album released in 1999, with which they will get a huge success not only in Italy but in the rest of Europe, as well as in other countries like United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand and Brazil. 2 years later, they will release their second studio album, adopting a musical style much more oriented to electro house in the likes of the French duo Daft Punk, and with lyrics both in English and Italian, with which they achieve a moderate success. And in 2002, at the same time with his musical project with the band, Gabry released his debut studio album with original songs and remixes of local and international hits done by him. Third, after in 2003, together with the band, they will be one of the participating artists in the renowned festival di San Remo, where they will place 15 in the final ranking. And after their participation, they released their eponymous third studio album, keeping the same musical style from their previous musical production, but with lyrics mostly in Italian, achieving a modest success in the Italian musical charts. Gabry releases his second studio album the following year with more releases of Italian hits done by him, and in 2005 the band will suffer many changes, as in one hand Gabry will left the trio to finally pursue his solo career and establish his own record label, while the two remaining members will leave the musical production company where they belonged for many years to establish their own one. As the name of Eiffel 65 belonged under their previous production company, they will decide to continue their career with a different stage name, until they eventually will use the original name once again a few years later. Gabry moves forward with his musical career as a DJ, releasing several singles, some of them featuring Italian and international artists, by releasing her third studio album and an EP during 2008 as well. Thereafter, he will start to have collaborations in many singles with with the Austrian-Italian DJ Lumix, starting to have his first Eurovision licks as well, as he will be one of the songwriters and the producer of the song Hello, with which Lumix himself, together with the singer Pia Maria, will represent Austria in 2022 during the competition held in his hometown. Today, he is still releasing uncountable singles and doing a vast number of collaborations, performing in sessions and concerts both in Italy and abroad, with which he has been establishing his position as one of the most acclaimed DJs in the electronic musical scene. To all this normally raises the question on how Gabry will end up living the Eurovision experience on first hand, representing in this case to San Marino instead of Italy. Let's check it out in further detail. Keeping the strategy of these recent years, the San Marinese public broadcaster will organize the 4th edition of their national final, now rebranded as San Marino Song Contest, to select both the artists and the song that would represent the microstate in Switzerland. After the submission period launched by the broadcaster during last year for the emerging artists and songwriters, it was known that a total of 1,200 entries were received, with the artists coming from 28 countries, keeping a majority of Italian artists as usual, representing a record since the launch of the national final. This will advance through the live auditions phase, from which the 221 artists that will compete in the semi-finals will come out, that were expanded to 7 this time, being right now the European national final with the most number of semi-finals currently, which will be announced in late last January, where stand out the Albanian singer Vesa Kokedima, who was the Albanian representative on last year during the competition held in Malmö, Sweden, and the Ukrainian singer Teslenko, who was initially longlisted this same year to get a spot on Vipmir, the well-known Ukrainian national final, but that ended up withdrawing to register his entry in the process. On the other hand, it also came to attention initially the name of the Spanish singer Serafín Zubiri, who was the Spanish representative for the contest in Switzerland twice. First in 1992 during the competition held in Malmö, and later in 2000 during the competition held in Stockholm, which had initially registered an entry, but he ended up withdrawing for the national final due to schedule conflicts. In each one of the first 6 semi-finals, which took place during last February, one finalist will be chosen to qualify to the final show, while other 3 artists will advance to a second chance round, from which 4 more artists will qualify to the final show. The 7th semi-final, traditionally contended between San Marinese artists, will also select a finalist, giving a total of 11 finalists that will join the 9 established artists that will be pre-qualified after receiving a direct invitation from the production company, being Gabry among these pre-qualified artists, to set up a final show with 20 finalists. Beyond the expansion of the semi-finals, the reduction of artists during the second chance round, and the removal of the experimental selection with songs generated with AI implemented during the last edition, the format will remain technically similar without further changes. Gabry will make his appearance in the final show, which took place in early last March, in which he performed his entry live, which casually was the big favorite after the release of his song as part of the official theme for the last edition of Festival di San Remo in Italy, becoming a viral success in the country. After the performances of all the finalists, the jury will review each one of the proposals presented, deciding their verdict in favor of Gabry, fulfilling the initial predictions by achieving the victory in the national final and subsequently gaining the right to represent San Marino on the main stage of Basel. A track with an absolute Italian taste. Now I'm going to analyze further on this proposal, which is he has represented the Macedonian Republic at the contest. The melody blends electronic dance music with tarantella in an attempt to mix the Italian musical tradition with contemporary sounds, reflecting that connection between the past and current generations. It is to stand out in this matter that the song was initially registered for Gabry to attempt to compete in the last edition edition of Festival di Sanremo, but it was ultimately rejected, thus not being among the competing entries for the edition. However, foreseeing the song's potential by Carlo Conti as the artistic director, it will end up being used as the official theme of the musical festival, as I have mentioned before. About the vocals, it is well known that Gabry does not sing at all, being the song performed in this case by two Italian singers that had opted to remain anonymous, not appearing as part of the official performance with Gabry. Having cleared out that point, the voices of them are pretty right and suitable to the track, with that characteristic Italian touch that could not be missed. The lyrics have been written fully in Italian by Gabry himself, together with the same Italian singers that provide the vocals in the track, while the context behind it is quite specific and simple. It intends to be a reflection of the new generation of young Italians that are living these modern times without abandoning the cultural legacy of their ancestors. This can be seen while reading the lyrics in more detail, previously translated initially, reflected true body and spirit of party and celebration, with multiple references to characteristic aspects of the Italian culture like art, gastronomy, football, fashion, and Catholic religion. It is not clearly the song intends to transmit a message, but if it would have one, I would say that it emphasizes the significance of preserving the traditions that we have in our countries of origin, reinterpreting and adapting them to the circumstances and the reality of the current times we are living. Having known a little more about the track, let's take a look how he has reflected the concept transmitted through the official music video. The plot is developed in a plain white room, seeing different shots during the song's intro. First of two girls that are linked by the braids of their hairs, dancing one of the variations of Tarantella, a group of senior ladies preparing a bolognese sauce, and a group of youngsters slowly appearing from one of the sides of the screen. All these shots alternate during the first verse, together with other ones with Gabry, that is DJing his table of the pot in which the ladies are preparing the bolognese sauce, and Gabry himself surrounded by many youngsters that are energetically dancing around his table. The tarantella dance performed by the two girls sing at the beginning continues, but then a group of dancers come to surround Gabry and circle around the table during the chorus to dance another variation of tarantella, while all the people there dance to the rhythm of the song, from children to senior people, and in another additional shot, the same group of dancers from before are dancing tarantella around the group of ladies while they are clapping. The dynamic is kept during the second verse until Gabry holds a boy in his arms in some moment, being unknown if it was his son or if it was just one of the children featured in the recording of the music video, featuring a tender moment by playing one of the keys of Gabry's keyboard at the table, while the danceable dynamic from the rest of the people continue. Just before reaching the chorus again, the group of dancers are seen surrounding a group of boys in motorcycles. Shortly after, they are grouped in front of Gabry's table, and once again in the chorus, they resume the tarantella dance, initially by themselves and thereafter in front of the Gabry's table once again. The same sequence of shot previously seen is kept, standing out an additional one with a group of dancers encouraging the boys of the motorcycles to dance with them, closing the performance with a close-up of Gabry finishing his DJing on the table. With this proposal that it suits Italy everywhere and that was already presented initially as the opening act in the last night of Festival di Sanremo, there was expectation on how he would present it in the San Marino's national final. Let's take a look then to his live performance during his participation at San Marino Song Contest. Recalling the staging in the national final, the performance is focused on Gabry DJing on his table at the center of the stage, having the two singers to each side of him wearing masks covering half of their faces, being joined by two female dancers that dance tarantella, which I'm pretty sure are the same ones featured in the music video, and an instrumentalist playing the tambourine, which is one of the musical instruments traditionally used in the genre. The lighting is mostly white throughout the performance, while the visual graphics show textures with the colors of the Italian flag. The female dancers, Gabry and the tambourine player, keep an energetic and festive attitude matching with the track, while the singers are motionless, instead just focusing on singing singing the vocal part of the song, keeping that same dynamic during all the performance from beginning to end. I have seen this performance with curiosity and with contrast. In one hand, I thought it was good the fact that they brought the spirit of the tarantella both in the vocals and the dance, because in the end it is a track that has a noticeable festive character, and just because of that I did not understand that motionlessness from the singers during the older performance, just like they were robots. I can understand that they do not want to stand out much because it was decided from the very beginning, but that does not mean that they had to be stuck like a pole on the stage like they were forbidden to move. Despite how weird was this part of the performance, I will say that definitely was the attitude from the rest who ended up convincing the jury to get the victory in the national final, but I thought that it was definitely something to be fixed ahead of the contest. For the staging in Basel, it could be seen during the first rehearsals that it will have many similarities with one done in the national final, although with some changes. They will discard the female dancers to incorporate an accordionist and an additional backing singer. The visual graphics will radically change compared to the national final by using many elements associated with Italy, like the David statue by Michelangelo, while the lighting will be based in white and purple tones, and it is also noticed an extensive use of both pyrotechnics and fire columns. About the costumes of all of them, it changes from the national final. Gabry wears an outfit in metallic gray in opposite to the white one previously worn by him, while the singers, the backing singer, the accordionist and the tambourine player wear outfits in metallic black. Standing out that the masks worn by both the singers and the backing singer are more sophisticated and attractive despite being black. Watching his live performance in the first semi-final, it has been quite focused in both Gabry and the singers who were at the bottom of the stage, while the backing singer, the accordionist and the tambourine player were at the front of the stage, which has saw them mostly secondary by having very few moments to stand out in close-ups. During the first verse, the visual graphics featured the big statue by Michelangelo, which appears like chewing gum, doing in some moment a bubblegum that explodes all over his face. Then during the first chorus, there are textures in white and purple tones matching with the lighting as well, showing the song's title in capital letters at the same time, switching later to silhouettes of youngsters dancing tarantella. Thereafter in the second verse, there is imagery with the Vitruvian Man by Leonardo da Vinci, as well as Fontana di Trevi in Rome with purple water that even trespasses to the leg screens of the stage floor. And by the second chorus, there is imagery of the Roman Colosseum that heavily blooms, as well as imagery of some of the well-known Napoleon paintings, finishing the performance with an imagery of the Atlas statue together with many Corinthian columns. I have seen the performance right. I think that they had a good staging and they fulfilled with the festive character transmitted with the track. I had to stand out especially that in addition that the chorus was much more reinforced with the addition of the backing singer, but the singers and the backing singer had more emotion and a little more dynamism during the performance. And thankfully they took note, because if they stood static like in the national final, it was going to be weird once again, and probably it will be more difficult to Gabry on getting a ticket for the grand final. Personally, I was not very sure about him being one of the finalists, so it was a huge surprise his announcement as one of the qualifiers. But taking into account that Italy was precisely voting in the first semi-final, it was logical to think that the Italian televote will give him the boost needed to attempt to get one of the 10 spots, as it ended up happening afterwards. Thereafter, in the voting results in the grand final, the jury will rank him second to last initially, so it was about to be seen if the televote would help him to climb more positions in the ranking. However, despite placing 20th for the public, the total score will finally place him last in the final ranking. Making a summary of all of the comments, the San Marino's entry for this year is not bad. I must admit that initially I had my doubts about the proposal, taking into account that the participations of DJs throughout the years have had mixed results. The only successful case known in recent years before Gabry was from the Greek duo Freaky Fortune with the rapper Risky Kid, who participated in 2014 during the edition held in Copenhagen, Denmark, while in the other side of the coin, the cases of Grow Me with Lucas Meyer, Daru with Sebastian Raymond, and the aforementioned Lumix with Pia Maria, who participated for Poland, Finland, and Austria respectively in subsequent editions. They all had the same result, remaining in the semi-finals due to their problems with their live performances that did not convince to the audience, despite the fact that they are renowned DJs in Europe and other parts of the world. However, it was watching Gabry's performance with his singers live and noticed the difference, so I could not discard at all any qualification chances of the grand final that got to convince to the audience at some point. Personally, it is not a song that drives me crazy, since it's mostly associated with Italians, although I recognize that festive vibe that definitely transmits, being able to listen to it without any problem. The result represents in this case a bittersweet success for the microstate, because while it got qualified to the grand final after a 3-year disqualification streak, it ended up at the bottom of the ranking, and being the first time that San Marino was placing last in the grand final since it participates in the competition. Talking about Gabry, it is clear that he will move forward with his musical career. In fact, he has recently released a new single after his participation at the contest, and on the other hand, in an unusual different facet, he has published a book with his autobiography called Dance and Love, so he will be quite busy for sure between the promotion of his book and the concerts he will be doing during all the summer, both in Italy and other European countries. This has been the San Marino's proposal this year for the contest. What do you think in your case? Do you feel identified with this proposal, or it went unnoticed for you instead? In any case, let me know in the comments down below so we can keep the discussion. And this is it for today's episode. Don't forget to like this video if it was of your taste, so you can help me supporting this content by reaching it to much more people. Subscribe to my channel if you have not done it yet, enable notifications by the bell, and find me through my social media. Take care and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.